Hello everyone, hope you all are doing well. I am with part 2 of chapter 1, that is Introduction to DBMS. Before moving further, we will have a quick revision of part 1. So part 1 consists of what is database. Database is a collection of integrated data which is used to insert, update, delete and retrieve the data. What is DBMS? DBMS stands for Database Management System, which was created by or developed by Charles Bachman in 1960. We have four different user tasks. The first was data definition, second is data updation, third is data retrieval, and the fourth user administration. Data definition means creating the structure. Data updation means inserting the data into the structure. Data retrieval means using the data which is stored into the structure, and user administration means monitoring the performance of the user, or it is used for the security purpose. We have different database languages, and the first is DDL. DDL stands for Data Definition Language, which is used to define the structure or pattern of the database. DDL has different commands. The first is to create database, create table. Second, alter, which is used for the modification. Third is rename, which is used to rename the object. Fourth is drop, means deleting the records and tables. Fifth is truncate. Truncate is used to remove the records from the table but keep the structure as it is. And the last is comment. Comment is also used in different programming languages, that is single line and multi-line comment. The second is DCL. DCL stands for Data Control Language. The data control language has two commands, that is grant and revoke. Grant is used to give the privilege to the user, and revoke is to cancel the privilege from the user. And now the next we are going to see, that is DML. DML stands for Data Manipulation Language. It is used for the accessing or manipulating the data into the database. Means whatever structure we are creating, we have different performing actions on it. So it is used in DML. The first command we are going to see is insert. Inserting the data into the table. So if you want to insert the data into the structure which we have created in data definition language, insert command is used. So the syntax to insert the command into the database is insert into table, means table name, values, and whatever columns you are having, that columns name. The next is select. Retrieving the data from the database, means if you want to see what you have stored into the database, use select command, which is used as, or the syntax is select star from table name. The next is delete. Delete command is used to delete record from the database. To delete the specific record, we are going to use delete command. The syntax is delete from table name, where the condition you have to put, which is if you want to delete the specific record from the table, means delete from employee, where employee ID is equal to 1. If you put this command and run this command, the record 1 will be deleted from the database. The next is update. Update command is used to update existing data within the table. So existing data means whatever record you have stored into the table will be updated with the help of update command. The syntax is update table name, set column name is equal to values, means whatever values, and the condition you want to condition where you have to change the data, means if employee ID is 1, employee ID is 2, the specific employee ID will be changed. Now the next command and the last command is last language is TCL. TCL stands for Transaction Control Language. Now the transaction control language is used to manage the transaction within the database, and that is used into a logical statement or logical transaction. Now the different commands in TCL is commit. Commit is used to have the transaction, means committing the transaction into the database. If you have a complete procedure and if you run that procedure or if you run that query, it will commit the transaction. Rollback, it will restore the data to the last statement. Whatever last statement you have created or you have run, it will again go back to the last statement, means undo the process. The next is begin. Begin is used at the beginning of the transaction, means when you are going to start the transaction, you have to start it with begin. The next is save point. Whatever changes you have done into the transaction, the changes done to save the point will be unchanged. All the transaction after save point will be rolled back, means if you save it, it will be saved into your database. That is known as save point. Means we have seen DML and TCL, two different commands into our database languages. Means there are four commands, that is DDL, DCL, DML and TCL. So the next we are going to see with characteristics of DBMS. So what do you mean by characteristics of DBMS? Characteristics means features of DBMS. So the features tells us that the first feature is SQL. So what is SQL? See, if I'll zoom, see what is SQL? It provides a way to write queries against the database. If you want to store the data, if you want to create the database, you have to create the table, we are going to use SQL queries, as we have seen in DDL, means for creating the structure we are using create table, create database. That query, that structure is given by SQL. The second is data redundancy or less redundancy. Less redundancy means data duplication can't be stored into the database. Means duplicate values can't be stored. If you are storing roll number 1 2 times, means it will not be stored into the database table. The next is transaction. Transaction in which changes occurs with the consistent change. Transaction table means there will be means consistent changes, like your for example your bank account. If you are crediting, debiting, if you are doing some process on your bank account or your money transaction, there will be a consistent transaction, there will be consistent change into the table, that is known as transaction table. The next is data security. Data security refers to the process of protecting the data, means which we have seen in user administration. Whatever performance is notified, whatever is done into the database is secured and is under the camera, like it is having a camera which is looking after it, so it is secured, it is protected. The next is acid property. So what do you mean by acid properties? A stands for atomicity, C for consistency, I for isolation and D for durability. Now atomicity means the entire transaction takes place at once or doesn't happen at all. Means if you want to go to college, you will be ready by mind or else you will sleep down, means you will not go to the college, is known as atomicity. Entire transaction will take place at once or it will not happen at all, is known as atomicity. The second is consistency. The database must be consistent similarly before and after the transaction, means it will not affect any structure, it will not affect any other record which is stored into the database, is known as consistency. Means data will remain same as it is before and after the transaction. Third is isolation. multiple transaction occurs independently without any interference is known as isolation. Means if I am performing something, no other transaction will come into it and perform some other performance or do any interference into it is known as isolation. The next is durability. The change of a successful transaction occur even if the system failure occurs is known as durability. Means if I have run the query and after running the query immediately light goes, means it will not affect to any system failure, any different kinds of failure. If you have run the query, if you have performed something, that is known as durability. Sometimes in Microsoft Word also it happens that we have prepared some document and immediately light goes, so it will be automatically saved. You will get into the tab that it is automatically saved, so you can reopen it. That is known as durability. So got the 4 points: acid properties, that is atomicity, consistency, isolation and durability. Now data backup and recovery. The process of storing the copy and protecting the data is known as data backup. Means for example, if you have deleted some photos from your gallery, your memory will be stored in the trash memory, where you can recover your data or backup your recover your data, for example. And backupping means before deleting, you are storing that photos into your drive, or you are sending to someone, you are storing into a pen drive, is known as data backup. The next is supports multiple user. We will see further the centralized database where multiple user can use or supports the multiple user, multiple client can support the database. The next is data consistency, which we have seen. Consistent view of data including visible changes made by the user. Means whatever changes will be done will be visible to the user is known as data consistency. So here we have seen different characteristics. The first is SQL, second is less redundancy, third is transaction, fourth is data security, fifth is acid property, sixth is data backup and recovery, seventh is support multiple user, and eighth is data consistency. So here is the brief about the characteristics of DBMS. So the SQL, less redundancy, data consistency, multiple users, supports multiple users, backup and recovery, acid properties, data security and transaction. So with that we move further, that is database 3-tier schema. The 3-tier schema explains us the architecture which divides the database into 3 levels, that it separates it from the physical database and the user application. It also describes the structure of specific database system. So the specific database system is divided into 3 levels, that is external level, conceptual level and internal level. So the external level explains you the external entities, means it is known as the view schema or the application or the highest level of database abstraction, that is an user level. Means WhatsApp is an external level which is used for the presentation purpose, is known as external level. Next is conceptual level. Conceptual level is known as logical level, which describes the design of the database. Means whatever particular designing is done, whatever conceptually is done, whatever relationships in the table is done, that is known as conceptual level. Means for example, like if you're doing means if you're doing some task, you're writing a paper, you're logically thinking about it and writing the paper. That is known as conceptual level. The next is internal level. It is known as physical schema and is describe the physical storage and structure of the database. Means physically whatever is stored is in internal level. It is used to define how the data will be stored in a block, how the data is stored into a database. External level is a user type level, means user visual level. Second is conceptual level, which is logical level. And the third is internal level, which describes or which shows how the data is stored into the database or the block of database. So it has different mappings like external mapping and conceptual mapping. The mapping is used to transfer the request and response between various database levels of architecture. Means whatever lines we can see here, na, whatever it is, so it transfers the request and response between various levels of the database. So got the point what it is? Mapping is used to transfer the request and response between various database. Mapping is a time consuming process because till it don't go from the external level to the conceptual level, it can't go to the internal level. Means it is a time consuming process and it is necessary to transfer the request from external to conceptual and from conceptual to internal. Without this transaction, you can't store any type of data into the database. Got the point? Now, after this, we will see system architecture of database. Now, system architecture has three different tiers of architecture. The first tier is single tier, where client, server and database works on single machine is known as single tier architecture. Your mobile phone is a single tier architecture, where client means for external level is your phone, internally conceptually your phone is only working, and conceptually and internally also your phone is working, like external level, conceptual level and internal level, and also like your database. Means for example, you are having a camera in your phone, you are clicking the photo, that is an external level. It is storing into a gallery, it is a conceptual level, and also it is storing in different database like file storage you are having, that is known as internal level. Means the single tier client, server and database works on a single machine is known as single tier architecture. The next is two-tier architecture, where the presentation layer runs on a client and the data is stored on the server side. Then it is called as two-tier architecture. That is, client and database works together differently is known as two-tier architecture. The third is three-tier architecture. Client, server and database is known as three-tier architecture. The most popular client server architecture in DBMS, in which the development and maintenance of the function, logical process, data access, data storage and user interface is done independently with different modules, is known as client does its own work, server does its own work and database does its own work individually, is known as three-tier architecture. Got the point? The system architecture are of three types. Single tier architecture, where client, server and database works on a single machine. The second is two tier, client and server or database works individually with presentation layer and the data storage level. And three-tier architecture has three levels, that is client, server and database. The next is view of data. What do you mean by view of data? View of data is for the user relevant, means it hides the irrelevant details of the database relationship, constraints and security from the users is known as database. Means I'm having my best friend with me and one more friend with me. Means little bit, not everything I'll share with my best friend or my friend. I will share only that much what is important for them. Means for example I'll explain you in Hindi, like मुझे जितना बताना है मैं उतना ही बताऊंगी, बाकी सब छुपा के रखूंगी, is known as view of data. The next is DBMS schema. Design of the database is called schema. Schema does not show data present in the table, it only shows the structural view of the database. Means मैंने क्या किया, मैंने गिफ्ट लिया है मेरे दोस्त के लिए, मीन्स दोस्त का बर्थडे है तो गिफ्ट लिया है, तो व्हाट आई विल डू, आई विल रैप द बॉक्स एंड आई विल प्रेजेंट इट. Means whatever box size, whatever box I am giving to her is known as DBMS schema. उसके अंदर क्या है वो मैं दिखाई नहीं रही हूँ, वो बाद में खोलेंगे वो अलग बात है. लाइक व्हेन आई एम गिविंग द database schema to my friend, that is known as the structure. I am not showing her the data, I am just giving her the structure, is known as DBMS schema. The next is DBMS instance. The data or information stored in database at a particular moment of time is called as instance. Means जिस टाइम पे डेटा स्टोर किया जाता है उसे कहा जाता है instance. It is also called as the present state of the database. Means you are storing the data, you are in the insertion point, you are creating the data, you are in the DDL language point. If you are revoking or you are giving the permission to the you are granting the request, you are in which kind of DCL language form. Means whatever state you are in, that is represented by DBMS instance. The next is DBMS independence. Now DBMS independence is the ability to modify the schema without affecting any program into the database. There are two types, that is logical data independence and physical data independence. So the next is centralization. Centralization means the data is stored at the centralized level and different clients, different users are using same database for their purpose, is known as centralized database. See here I have given the diagram. This is a centralized database and different clients are using the same database, is known as centralized database. For example, college is your centralized database where multiple kinds of students, multiple means different from students come from different places, library is same, teachers are same, classroom is same, is known as centralized database. Means multiple users are using one single database or one single structure, one single data, is known as centralized database. So the advantages of centralized database are easy to use, it is cheaper, has very less data redundancy since data is stored at a single place. So the next is client server system. Now what do you mean by client server system? Where client is connected to internet and internet is connected to the server, is known as client server system. For example, if I am going to Google, if I am searching for particular thing, like for example I am searching for Dominoes on Google. So if I am searching for Dominoes on Google, everyone will get the same website, it will give to an installation link. Same process will happen. That will connect to the server. It will check whether it is having the data or not, like Domino's, and it will redirect to the Google form. For example, hmm, for example, uh, I'm a student and I'm asking the teacher for particular example. What she will do? She will refer a syllabus in which chapter it is, and she will redirect to you. Every process, or every student, if someone is asking her, every student who will ask her the question, she will do the same process. She will search and then she will redirect to you. Is known as client server system. See, client, internet and server. The next is transaction server. A transaction server is a specialized type of server that manages operation of the software based transaction. It is a software that is used for implementation. Means transaction server is used to for the specialized, means for doing the transaction. For example, I'm sending money with the help of Paytm, means I'm using internet to do my transaction, is known as transaction server. Data servers are the networked computer which uses data application that provides database services. Means note, I'm having note in my phone. Everyone has it. If I'm storing some data on a particular notepad, then it is stored into a data server. It is known as data server. Cloud based server. Cloud based server means whatever data is stored from your mobile phone, database, server or network, it is stored on the cloud base. For example, if I am clicking the photo, I know it will be stored into a gallery, but after it is stored into the gallery, it will also will be stored on Google Photos, is known as cloud based server. Means you're not storing it into it, but your gallery is redirectly storing it into a cloud storage, is known as cloud based server. So here we complete with our first chapter, and in the first chapter we have seen different, what is database, what is DBMS, different user tasks, different languages, characteristics of DBMS, then database 3-tier schemas, which is external, conceptual and internal schema. Then we have gone through system architecture of database, that is it which has 3 types of DBMS architecture, that is single tier architecture, 2-tier and 3-tier architecture. View of data, known as it shows only relevant data to the user. Database schema, it represents only the structure, not the data. DBMS instance, it shows the current state of the database. DBMS independence, ability to modify the schema without affecting its data, is known as database independence, which has 2 types, logical and physical data independence. Centralization, centralized data is used by multiple users. Client server architecture, where client, internet and server are connected to each other. Transaction server, data server and cloud based server. So here we complete with our first chapter. Please go through it, and if you have any queries, you can mail me or comment me down to get the notes or any other solution for your exams or any other doubts. Thank you.